The secret to a flattering design. Now remember, something that's flattering does not mean thin. Flattering means enhancing attributes of yourself that are already there in an aesthetically pleasing way. So proportion concerns how different parts of a garment and the garment as a whole relate to the human form. It's about pleasing ratios, and we're going to talk about why the ratio is pleasing. Golden ratio. Have y'all heard of the golden ratio?
Yes.
If you've taken an art class or photography class, you will have likely heard about or learned about the golden ratio. Okay, so it's a 1 to a 1.618. It is naturally appealing proportions. So we're going to talk about why they're naturally appealing. And then when you know what the proportions are, you can play around with the scale. So here's a diagram of the golden ratio. It's a composition that's split into thirds with where your eye kind of moves through the composition. This is Miss Mona Lisa by famous painter Leonardo da Vinci. He was a huge proponent, advocate, artist. He really researched the whole rule of thirds thing a lot. He actually, he put in the, anyway, sorry, my words are getting mixed up. We'll look at a sketch of what he did of the human face with how it relates to the golden ratio as well. So we see this a lot in nature. So there's some examples of the golden ratio through nature. Here's some more natural pictures. So in photography or in the world, we're kind of used to seeing pictures like this, right? With the horizon and the nature, with people. Now this wedding photo here, something that makes this wedding photo very interesting is that they're using the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds with images, it's split up into 9 parts. 3 here and 3 here. You can go vertical or horizontal. What makes this picture more interesting is that these people are not dead set in the center. They're on one of the rule of thirds lines. Very interesting. They could have also very well been over here and it would have been interesting. Or here. Looking at this landscape picture here, we see we have the sun at the exact intersection of the rule of thirds lines. We also see that a lot of the landscape is down here in this section of the rule of thirds. So it's 2/3 up here and 1/3 here. It's very interesting. Another thing that's very interesting to note about all of these pictures is that you can kind of tell it's from a person standing on the ground's point of view. They're not super up high, they're not super low. It's eye level. So as humans, we're used to seeing things in rule of thirds. You don't even realize it. When you go to the ocean and you're looking out at the ocean, you see the horizon pretty much like here, but then there's this huge sky up here. So you don't even realize that you're visually looking at the earth in a rule of thirds manner, where the ground horizon level here, big sky up here. So that's something to note about these pictures, is that this heavy portion down here at the third is just kind of our natural way of observing nature. Looking at other things in nature, a little bit more specific, like trees. Let's look at these trees. You ever look at a tree and you're like, wow, it's a beautiful tree. Yeah. Probably because it has the rule of thirds going on. So you can see how like the trunk and the heaviness of the tree gets divided into thirds. This one's not as 30 as this one. Visually, I like this one better. Animals. We're used to seeing animals divided up into thirds. You don't even really realize it. Their body takes up about 2/3 of their makeup, and their head is usually about 1/3. Now, of course, it depends on what position they're at, but it's not a half and half. Most animals, not all animals. I'm just saying animals that we see a lot. Animals that we're used to seeing, like dogs and cats. Those are animals we probably see the most often. And then people ourselves, we are divided into thirds. Our faces are divided into thirds, and I'll talk a little bit about more of that recently. Also, there's this very elongating thing that happens in nature that we're used to seeing. Trees go upward, mountains go upward, people are upward. We are usually more tall than we are wide. So visually, we are used to seeing things upward. We build things upward. So it's almost like God created us to like acknowledge and, you know, be reminded of things above. There's always this upward theme everywhere. So here is Da Vinci's sketch where he divides up the human face in all kinds of ways. We'll talk a little bit about that more later. But right here, so in people, you divide people up about 8 heads worth. If you've ever taken an art class or learned how to draw people, on average, we are about 8 head lengths tall. So you can start dividing, welcome to my world where you start dividing proportions on people and clothes all the time, every day. So we're about 8 head lengths long. Does anybody want to volunteer for the experiment? Jaden, come on. Sure. Let me get a ruler.
This is gonna be fun.
Ruler?
Are you sure I'm all 8? I might be like 5.5.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me get a ruler. Sorry, should totally have a ruler.
Do I look 8 head lengths long to y'all?
You look about 6.
Now, I know this right here has 9, but that's kind of a division of where the heels are. So heels, and again, this is average, it's not an exact thing. But heels, it's kind of like where you are on the ground, see heels. So in fashion, especially like when you're high heels, you're adding like a half a head, or an illustration. We can do 9 head illustration where you add and elongate the legs. It makes it just look interesting. All right, Jaden. All right, head length. Okay, right here, right about there. Okay, so there's 1 head, 2 head, 3 head, 4 head, 5 head, 6 head, 7 head, 8 head.
See, I'm 8 heads tall.
Wow.
So, yes, very interesting. Also, your head can also help give you proportions of hands. 2/3. 2/3. Hands. Hands about 2/3 of your head. Your foot, I think we talked about this the other day. The length of your foot is usually the proportion of your forearm. There's all kinds of proportions all over the place. Looking at the face, so your face, you know how when you're a little kid and you draw your eyeballs way up here because you think the eyes are at the top of your head?
Yes.
They're not. Your eyes are in the center of your head. So halfway from your head to your head, you got to include the top of your forehead though too. Like all the way visually, top of your head, your eyes are halfway. And then, guess what gets divided into thirds around your eyes?
Your nose.
Nose, mouth, chin. Humans are used to looking at this portion of your face. We're not really used to looking at this portion. Sure, we notice it, but we're primarily focusing on eyes and mouth. So this portion of our face we're looking at all the time with other people. So our eyes are constantly absorbing things that are in thirds. That's why thirds are visually pleasing to us, because it's all around us all the time and we don't even know we're seeing it all the time. So that's why we like thirds. Here's another sketch of a person with 8. So you can see how the 8 fits into there. And then here's our chick over here that has a little bit of a high heel going on. So her calves fall right here at the ankle at the 8. And then she's got some high heels on. So it elongates. So that's why, you know, that goes back to that whole elongating theme. We like tall things. We like things that are long. It's just naturally human to us to gravitate towards lengthy things. So that's why it's a common theme in fashion. Like, you're not trying to make yourself look shorter most of the time. You rarely hear people talk about wanting to try to wear an outfit to look short. You usually hear about an outfit to try to make you look tall because it's visually pleasing to us, because we're used to things being so long and elongated all the time. We're used to vertical things. Okay. Yes.
Is that why, like, agencies want tall models?
Yes. That's exactly why. Agencies want tall models, usually 5'7" or above, because they can really play off of the proportions to have elongating, visually pleasing fashion pictures and runway shows and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so rule of thirds with fashion, it's a styling technique that divides the body or an outfit into thirds, creating a visually balanced and aesthetically pleasing look. It's based on the golden ratio. And we just talked about all that. Okay, so here's some outfits with thirds. So you can play up heavy thirds on the top, 1/3 on the bottom, or you can do a small third on the top, or a longer 2/3 on the bottom, or you can kind of mix and match and have two different proportions going at the same time. So here we have a third up here at the top, and you might not can visually see it as good as I can, but the reason why I can see that so well is because her shirt's tucked in right here. Now it's not as visually striking here. The focus is not on the waist being divided as much, but it does exist because she has her shirt tucked in. And then she has these floor-length pants, and then she has this super extra long cardigan. But because the outfit underneath contrasts nicely with the coat, the long proportion of the coat really enhances, you know, the overall length. It's very elongating. She looks like she's tall already. She looks even taller now.
The girl on that side looks shorter.
She does. Guess why? 2/3 heavy up top here, 1/3 here. So she has a white shirt tucked in too, just like this girl does. But her coat is not as contrasting and it's not as long. Her coat cuts off at the 2/3 from here to here. Also, what she has going on is she has a bit of a hairstyle going on. She has a very plain, non-existent hairstyle, really. She has a little bit more of a visually obvious hairstyle, which pulls the proportion up. So your eye doesn't start here like it does over here. Your eye kind of goes up because her hairstyle is now included in the proportions. So that's another big thing with proportions too when you're styling is shoes and hair can really, it can change the proportions of your look. Here's another one. So this one's kind of basically that same thing as that other one with the blazer. She still has 2/3 heavy up top here. This is the same girl as from the one before. Does she look taller or shorter?
Looks shorter.
Yeah, she looks shorter. If these pants went all the way down, she'd probably look taller. But crop pants like this is a very casual look. So, you know, keep in mind, the goal is to not always want to look taller. Like when you dress, you don't always have to be like, oh, I have to look tall, 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 tall. You can also, you know, you might just like crop pants because you like crop pants. That's fine. It's not a do or don't necessarily for you. It's just they realize what it's doing. And then this one's, you know, pretty super basic. You can definitely tell the 1/3 up here, this is tucked in. So visually it has a much more striking division of the thirds. Here is some before and after. So we have a pretty basic, boring outfit here. Why is it basic and boring? It's half and half. There's no thirds going on. It's just split half and half. Half here, half here. Now where this ends, the half point on the body is the high hip. So we have the waist, which is the smallest part of your torso. It's the squishy part underneath your ribs. Usually that's the smallest part of your waist. Not all the time, or excuse me, smallest part of your torso. That's not necessarily true in all body types. We're gonna talk about body types next week. But on average, the waist is usually the smallest part of your torso. The hips are usually, on average, again, not always, different body types, but the hips are usually the largest part of the bottom of your body, which is usually around your backside, your behind. So whenever I take a hip measurement, it's usually around the widest part of you, which is your butt. High hip falls right at your hip bones. So wherever your hip bones are, that's high hip. That is the center of your body. That's half and half. So half, half. So yeah, so she's got half and half. Meh, boring. Oh, but when she tucks it in, she does a little French tuck. It all of a sudden brings that proportion of the legs up, makes her look a little bit taller, makes her look a little bit more intentional with how she's wearing clothes. Our short king over here, he's 5'3". Same outfit, styled differently. So he rolled up his sleeves a little bit and he tucked in his shirt. So all of a sudden his legs look a bit longer. And he is elongating himself.
It's like if I'm looking at the top of his head, like if I just look at his head, he's the same height. But if I just look at the outfit, he looks taller. When
Yes.
the one was tucked in.
Yes. Yes, you're exactly right. If you, like, would you know he's 5'3"? Would you think he's 5'3"?
Yeah.
So designers can really play up proportions and play around with proportions with whatever they're trying to convey. Not so much a flattering look, but very interesting.
It's eye-catching.
It's eye-catching. It's, worth discussing, but you can really tell very obviously that there's 2/3 heavy on the top here, 1/3 on the bottom here. This one is pretty divided evenly into the thirds because we have this very big dramatic lapel right here, which it crosses over just at that third line, which is very interesting. And then it bells out down here and it kind of parallels a little bit with the point over here and the sweep down here. The sweep is how much, the sweep is like the circumference of the opening of something. So like a skirt sweep would be how long, like how long the circumference is. What's that? It does look like a fortune cookie. I agree. Here's a little bit more wearable outfits that are, so these proportions are playing off the garments themselves instead of the whole person. One reason that you can do that with these looks is because the shoes are flat. They're not, like, even though these are red shoes, they're not super, I mean, it's just a little red ballet flat. There's nothing like eccentrically special about the shoes. Her hair is very subdued and basic. There's nothing big or eye-catching about her hair. So your eyes are kind of naturally drawn to the outfit itself. So the outfit itself is now being split into thirds instead of on her whole as a person. Same thing kind of over here. Very plain and flat here. Very plain up here. So your eye kind of naturally goes to this. Now, personally, I don't think those, like, they have some little strap around here. Like, they're trying to, like, break it up. It's not my favorite look. I think they were just trying to do something different and interesting with the suit. It kind of looks like it doesn't fit her as well as it should. Okay, and then these ratios are operating on a half. So again, pretty basic shoes, basic hair, kind of changes the proportion. If these dresses went all the way down to the floor, it's going to instantly change how your eye divides up the proportions. But because they're shorter and there's not really much going on up top here, your eye focuses on this as the proportions. And then the fur is up here, fur is up here. So these thirds are naturally a little bit shorter than they would be otherwise if this was all the way down to the floor. Okay, let's look at these proportions.
I like those. Like, they're just visually pleasing.
They are, but
Well,
why?
the first two of this. I don't know about the guy. It's just a guy. I don't know.
Right, this is a pretty basic, I mean, pretty basic outfit, but it's a good example of just thirds. If he had his shirt untucked here, he would look a lot more casual, a little bit frumpy, but because it's tucked in, looks a little bit more visually pleasing because it's a very obvious thirds.
He looks what?
He looks like he's about to go to a cafe or like a cafe date.
He looks like a
He just needs a
performative
blazer.
guy. He needs like a matcha in hand and a tote bag.
Real.
I can see that, I like that. Let's look at these two.
The color just popping on it. Anne Hathaway.
So these two kind of share the same proportions. They both hit at the mini skirt length. They both tuck in at the waist. They both have elongated sleeves. Visually, they both kind of start from right here. So they have the same proportions. They're kind of the same body type, but who looks taller?
Anne Hathaway.
Right, because
The
Anne
cute
Hathaway.
Oh.
She's got on these huge chunky shoes,
lady. Yes.
but also these huge chunky shoes gives her an extra head because now she's a 9 head instead of an 8 head. So your eyes naturally pull that in to make it part of the proportions. Okay, Let's look at these proportions. Does he look tall or short?
Short.
Why?
Oh, his belt is like close to his waist. I
Why
guess.
is
His
his
pants,
tie
like-
tucked
Yeah.
into his pants?
So he's got high waist on, but then it's cropped here, so they're short, and then his sleeve length is short too. So the proportions are kind of played a little bit to, it's got this, yeah, he looks shorter. What about her? Does she look tall or short?
She looks big.
The angle the camera
Why?
did.
The angle's a little bit like this up, like her head looks very
Along
small.
with the oversized clothing.
Maybe tall.
Yeah, she looks tall. What about this gentleman?
Average.
Average, he could be. Tall. Yeah, I would say
pants.
tall. I like the balance here with the flare pants and the shoulders. If you put lines to it, it kind of aligns with his shoulder width. And it's, he's got little pin tuck seams down the center here. It's very elongating. They're high-waisted. Yeah. Okay, and then, so yeah, know the rules so you can break them. And the mirror exposure effect. So the mirror exposure effect is a theory in psychology that the more you see something, the more you're exposed to it, the more likely over time you're going to adopt it. That's true with thoughts, music, business, people, trends, clothing. So the more you see something, the more you're like, oh, okay, I like this. I actually like this. So what's something in fashion that the first time you ever saw it, you were like, oh my gosh, I don't like that at all. But then over time, you kept seeing it. Maybe you saw an influencer wear it. Maybe you saw more influencers wear it. And then you're like, okay, I'm into it.
I think.
Stack sweatpants.
Stack sweatpants.
What are stack sweatpants?
Where the hem is like super duper long. So then it bunches up around the ankle.
Chrome hearts.
Chrome hearts?
I didn't like the design at first, but like I think I'm kind of growing on it.
Do you see it a lot? Like, does it show up in?
Yeah, I like see a lot of people wearing it. And I'm like, okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But like I see it's only on jeans. But like when people have like full chrome hearts on, I'm like, I think it's time to take it off.
Oh, too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, that's just one
Chrome
pattern.
hearts,
You
it's
look
a brand.
basic.
I don't like going boosters. Like I just what you buy a shoe that's dirt. Like I don't get that.
So you haven't adapted it. You have not taken it. Okay. So
will
what's
never
something
like
that
it.
you have adapted? What's something that you're like, I don't like this. I will never wear this. And then a couple months later, you got it
In
on.
7th grade, I used to rock bucket hats.
Bucket hats. That's a great
I
one.
used to not like bucket hats.
Yes. I think most people used to not like bucket hats.
I still don't.
I still have a bucket hat, unfortunately.
Bucket hat is one of those things, a trend. It will go in cycles. Same with jeans. Jeans, the American uniform